Welcome back again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk about Conor Benn because, to be honest with you, I don't really know what's going on with this guy's career. And I'm not talking about PEDs or, being banned or blah, 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 all the usual stuff. I'm talking about the people he's being matched with or that they're talking about matching him with, because I just don't get it. I really don't. I mean, first of all, there was that whole thing with Eubank. Now, I never liked that fight. I always saw it as a gimmick fight, and I never understood, apart from a cash-in, what the purpose of it was. It's normally the type of fight you get together, two guys with big names get together at the end of their career, and they have a nice little retirement pot, and they share it amongst themselves, which is fine, no problem with that at all. But to have it at that point of Ben's career always seemed very strange to me, really, really odd. Now, since then, his career he's had a couple of fights abroad, and his career is, chugging along again. And finally, that whole PED thing may be, put to bed, because EDDIE Hearn talking his usual nonsense about how he's been cleared to fight and blah, 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 blah. Well, he hasn't. Not in Britain, Eddie. He hasn't been cleared to fight in Britain. As you know, there is a procedure. And, it may finally be sorted out, which is fine, which is great, But why aren't you talking about bringing Crawford over to Britain or Boots Ennis or, I don't know, who else have we got there? Well, anyone, any kind of top 10 welterweight. I did a video, actually, I think it was last week or the week before, going through the WBC top 10 and, trying to work out who I think Ben should fight. Because Ben is ranked at number 5 with the WBC. Okay? So you would think he would want to fight all the welterweights. Instead, we've got this sort of, the latest thing is Tank Davis. Tank Davis is a lightweight. Well, you've gone from fighting a middleweight for a sort of big fat paycheck, which is understandable, it's prize fighting, I get it, to suddenly you want to fight a lightweight. What? Why? And then Devin Haney gets mentioned. Well, at the moment he's a light welterweight. He's not a welterweight. I don't see him calling out Subriel Matias. Interesting, but that would be a fight. Look, I don't really... I get the impression that EDDIE Hearn and Matchroom recognise Ben's limitations. I'm not the first person to say this, by the way. Other people have said it. I'm just repeating what I've thought for a long while and what other people think. I think Eddie Hearn, and bear in mind, Hearn has promoted Ben from his opening fight in 2017, 16, 17, when he was a teenager still. He's invested a lot of money in him, and I get the impression he knows what Ben's limitations are. And of course, it will not have escaped anyone's notice that in his last 2 fights, Ben has landed a stream of flush punches on 2 guys who are not world class. At the very best, you'd call them both fringe contenders, or Peter Dobson, maybe top 25, maybe top 20 at a push. And despite landing all these punches, no. I mean, neither of those guys went anywhere. So there is a limitation on Ben's power. He also, in both those fights, seemed to run out of ideas. He didn't seem to have a great deal of imagination when it became apparent that he couldn't just blitz through these 2 guys. He got caught cleanly. I mean, Peter Dobson, his punches were very, very slow. His footwork was slow. His hands were slow. He still landed a couple of flush punches on Ben. And I think a lot of it was just that Ben's mind was sort of drifted because he couldn't get him out of there. And instead of thinking, okay, let's switch to plan B. Plan B don't work, let's move to plan C, plan D. This is what you would think someone would do. They would, someone with a high ring IQ would change gears on the job. Ben didn't seem to do that. He just thought, well, I'm winning this fight, no problem. I'll just carry on, doing what I'm doing. And there was no imagination there. There was no variety there. So I think that Hearn recognises this. He won't admit it, of course. He'll never admit it. He'll recognise that Benn is, I mean, what would you call Benn? A top 20 welterweight? A top 25? Maybe you'd call him top 15. You certainly wouldn't call him a top 10er. Surely not. But maybe Hearn is thinking, what's the most amount of money we can make for the least amount of risk? And you could say, well, a lot of fighters do that. Yeah, I suppose a lot of fighters do that. And it is, again, it is called prize fighting. But when you're as vocal as Conor Benn, I'll beat anyone, I'll fight anyone, I'll fight Boots Ennis, I'll fight Haney, I'll fight, Crawford, I'll fight Spence, Look, you got to put up or shut up at some point. And it's up to Benn if he feels confident that he can beat literally anyone, or that he'll at the very least take anyone on. To sort of say to Hearn, look, let's make some big fights. Because even if you go back to before the whole PED farce, that stupid episode in not just Benn's career, but boxing in general, that we all had to suffer, who was Benn beating? He knocked out Chris Algieri, who was basically a retiree. He stopped Sammy Vargas. That was a premature stoppage. It was at the back end of Vargas's career. Chris Van Heerden had 1 foot in retirement, and probably 1 foot and 4 toes in retirement. What's Benn's best win? You have to ask these questions. If a bloke is going to talk the talk, at some point you've got to walk the walk. And in fact, you've got to hold him to a high standard. If he's saying he'll do all this stuff, at some point he's going to have to step up to the plate. And no, I'm just never ever interested in Chris Eubank. I don't care that Chris Eubank is a middleweight. I'm not interested in watching him fight Chris Eubank. I'm not really interested in watching him fight lightweights like a Tank. Although, to be honest with you, I'd probably pick Tank to beat him. And I would certainly pick Haney to beat him. I'd certainly pick Subriel Matias, who's a 140-pounder, to smash right through Benn, to make him quit, to make him retire. But no. So the question is for you to put in your comments below, where is Nigel Benn's career going? Who do you think he should fight next? I know I've done this with the previous video I did, but I want to... all right, let's put it this way. Let me ask you a question. Do you think EDDIE Hearn and Matchroom have as much faith in Benn that they always claim they've had, that he is a potential world beater? That can be the question for you to put in the comments below. All right, thanks for your time as always. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button, and I'll catch you later. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.